beep beep beep, bada beep, bada beep, bada beep beep beep, ding 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 ding. Wah 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 wah. That's our news call in the beginning.
Carnivore World News Report, Bell Brothers Carnivore World News Report.
I don't know. We're just messing around, trying something new, trying something different.
Mm-hmm. And I brought this sign out just to see what you think about this. Give me a kale, yeah, kale, yeah. Shawn Baker.
Where'd that come from?
We're just going to talk about some different. I don't know. We're just going to talk about some different stuff going on in the world in terms of nutrition and in terms of Instagram and social media and our social media, and just stuff that we see kind of floating around. You know, Joe Rogan has a huge influence on people. He's been promoting the carnivore diet. You guys see, you know, some other great resources, but what I'd like to try to get into first before we dive into some of our own experiences and before we check on Instagram and see what's going on there, is I want to help you guys to get great resources so you can learn, because I think my brother and I were excited about changing people's lives, but I don't even really want to necessarily change your life. I want to have an impact on your life, but I want you to be informed and then to start to be able to make your own decisions. So, Bor, what are some of the best resources? Like, we're not making stuff up. What are some of the best resources when it comes to carnivore diet?
And I think that people need these resources because a lot of people need to just start from the beginning and get all the information that they can. So the best resource I've found so far, because it's the most concise, it's the simplest, you already kind of know about the carnivore diet, you already know it's meat and water, so you just go out and buy Maria and Craig Emmerich's Carnivore Cookbook, because that
we mentioned that on here before, yeah.
That is a book, that's one book that you could buy. It's got recipes, it's got shopping lists, and it's got a whole introduction that basically is like the cliff notes of something that would be bigger. So a bigger resource would be Shawn Baker's Carnivore Diet, which I also highly recommend. The only reason I'm saying the cookbook over anything else is because it's the most convenient all-in-one spot way to get everything in one place. If you want more information and more science, I would go to like Dr. Shawn Baker's book. Also, at the end of the month here, February 25th, I believe, is the launch of the Carnivore Code, which is going to be Dr. Paul Saladino. So if you're more scientific and you're more into like really diving deep in, you go to Paul Saladino. If you're more into like the meat and water, you know, very basic carnivore diet, especially for stuff like mental health, go to empirica.ca. That is Amber O'Hearn's site. That's EMPIRICA, or yeah, dot and then like .ca, I believe. Empirica is what it's called, and that's Amber O'Hearn's website. That's got a lot of great information on it. Then also, Dr. Baker, again, has meatrx.com. There's thousands of success stories on there. Through these success stories, I've actually have a lot of people.
There's a ton of testimonials, and they're earth-shattering. They're emotional. You know, people are crying. Really good. People are, you know, they've lost hundreds of pounds. They've been in remission from diseases. They've gotten rid of really impactful autoimmune disorders, and then, you know, I think it's great that we are able to have an impact on some of you. Like, that is a huge motivator and driver for us. But, you know, it's really been amazing to help our own family. Like, that has been absolutely amazing.
Can I talk about that? Because I think, like, so Mark,
can't talk about it.
Mark helped Sherry, who's his mother-in-law. She's like one of my favorite people in the whole entire world. She's such a sweet woman, and she's done so much.
72, she just turned 72.
Yeah, she's been so supportive of me through drug addiction and alcoholism, and when she found out about, you know, like, she kind of cries about everything, which is great, because she's very emotional, and
That's what happens when you're 70.
Yeah, we've had a lot of crying together, Sherry and I, and when she saw me on January 10th, she was crying for a different reason. She was crying because she was on a bunch of different diabetes medications, and on January 10th, 10 days into the carnivore diet, Mark advised her all the way through it and got her off all those medications. She checked her blood glucose, and it came out to be what? Like, what was her level?
Her blood glucose started to just register as normal. You know, it started
like
being
70s,
it started being like 70s and 80s and things like that. And, you know, there's just, she was super frustrated, and you know, she knew some things. Like, the doctors didn't like leave her totally in the dark. But there's just so many things that are being done in the medical community that are very unfortunate. And I hate to bash doctors, because like one day I'm going to need one day he's going to need one. Like, we need him. He has hip replacements and stuff like that have help to enhance his life and stuff like that. So like we need doctors and we need medicine in some ways, but when they start they start toggling with where your blood glucose should register so that they can prescribe more medication to you, that is highly problematic. It used to be in the 140s, and now they've lowered it so that way they can prescribe more metformin, which they just say does no damage. But look, we all know that that's not true.
And they do the same thing with cholesterol numbers. They keep bringing those down. It was 200. Now it's going down to like 160. If your cholesterol's over 160, want to prescribe you something. So you're right. It's a money grab.
It's definitely a money grab, but to be able to impact our own family's life has been huge. Our mother has lost 20 pounds. My dad's lost about 15. My mom has been more active in communicating with us. I don't know if you've noticed that lately, but like these things they're not small things.
So
these
like
are a big deal.
I moved up here to be closer to my family, be closer to Mark, and be able to do some stuff with him. And the whole time I've been up here, I really haven't talked to my mom all that much. But like Mark said, she's been more communicative, more talkative to us, and we love that. Like I love talking to her when she's happy. Like she's the best person in the world, and so we love her, and we want to communicate with her. We want to talk to her. But in the past couple months, she's been like texting me every single day, and it's great to know that she's just feeling a little bit better. She's not totally better yet. There's a long way to go on a lot of this stuff, but we can just start chipping away at it.
Our dad has lost 15 pounds. Our aunt Arlene has lost, I think, close to 20 pounds now.
A great thing is our aunt Arlene had knee pain. Mm-hmm. There was a study that just came out today. I sent you a podcast with Jimmy Moore. Talks about it. There's Jimmy Moore's Live and La Vida Low Carb podcast. He explains the whole study if you guys want to hear that. But basically, he explains that they did a study, University of Alabama, and it was a randomized controlled trial. It was actually a trial where they took people and they compared opioids to ketogenic diets and how much of a pain resolution they get out of it. And these are all people like in their 60s and 70s, and these people got more pain resolution out of a ketogenic diet than they did off of opioids, which is actually outstanding and amazing. And hopefully doctors will start prescribing these diets to people more than they'll prescribe these deadly opioids, especially if you're in your 60s or 70s. Taking opioids slows your breathing, it causes respiratory depression, and it can kill you. So the other thing is that Kratom, our Mind Bullet, mindbullet.com/Chris Bell, by the way, you can go there and order Mind Bullet. Mind Bullet does the same thing as opioids, but it doesn't cause respiratory depression, right? So you can take something natural like Kratom, perform a ketogenic diet, and according to a randomized controlled trial, this isn't me talking, you can actually fix your knee pain more than just using something deadly like opioids.
Yeah, it's really astounding like what the nutrition can do, and we haven't really been shocked by anything that it's helped, because it's like, okay, well, it's helped so many other things. It doesn't.
What about Joe Rogan with vitiligo? So vitiligo is like
and when he was doing the UFC the other day, I didn't notice any spots on his hands at all.
He had those spots on his hands, right? And then we have a guy in the gym here.
I think he completely cured it.
So what's amazing is we have a guy in the gym here, this guy Eli, and he's a heavy guy. He's been trying to lose weight. I kind of get him to go on carnivore, and he'll go on it for like a week, and then he bombs out, and tries another week, and he bombs out. But we love people here, and we treat everything with love. So every time people come in, we're like, hey, how's your diet doing? How you doing? And you'll say, I fell off, blah, blah. But I can't wait to tell this guy, because he was talking about the one thing that bothers him the most isn't being overweight. It's vitiligo. It's his skin discoloration bothers him the most, makes him feel the most self-conscious about himself. So I think when we tell him now that, like, hey, look, Rogan got this to go away, it's worth a shot. Let's get on it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yo, bro, your hands are spotted, and that's your concern. You weigh 500 pounds. I love the guy too, but like we got to make some better decisions with our food, right? One thing that people don't really understand and realize, I think, is that in order to really lose weight and get headed in the right direction, you have to become healthy first. Like your gut microbiome and all these weird things you hear people talk about. But like we need momentum towards that. We need our gut to be healthy. We need our hormones in our body to be like heading in the right direction. So you don't try to lose weight necessarily to get healthy. However, that will help. But you need to get your body healthy first in order to lose weight in the first place. And that's why when my brother and I suggest a diet to you, I promote fasting quite a bit. I know he's messed around with fasting here and there. I talk about it endlessly on my podcast. I think it's a great tool. But I urge you strongly against fasting. Don't worry about fasting for the first few weeks or months that you're trying this, or maybe in the first few years. This is a really long process, and we didn't start out necessarily, we kind of in some weird backwards way did kind of start out with a carnivore diet, but that's another story for another day. But it took us a lot of steps. We kind of went through keto, and then we started brushing out more stuff over a long period of time. It's probably going to take a long time for most of you as well.
And really quick about that study, going back to that study, a lot of times people will say, well, you can improve your health if you just lose weight, and that's totally true. However, in this study, they actually compared a low-fat diet to a low-carb diet to the opioids. And the low-fat dieters did not receive any real relief from their pain. So it does matter. You have people like Lane Norton and Stan, they both say, well, if you lose weight anyway, you're not gonna hurt. Well, now we have a study to prove that what they were saying is actually not necessarily the total truth. Not like they were trying to lie to you. Nobody knew this until till the study came out, and who knows, it's only one study, who knows how much it's true. But we saw that in this one study that it's not gonna relieve pain to be on a different kind of diet and just lose weight. It might relieve a little bit of pain, but not as much as these ketogenic diets are doing. And it's really because of oxidative stress is the reason why these ketogenic diets get rid of oxidative stress in the body, and they get rid of all the bullshit that's hurting us.
Well, and your fat cells, they're holding on to a lot of things that aren't positive for your body. They're holding on to estrogens and a lot of just junk chemicals. Like, they're all kind of resting in your fat cells, and the fatter you are, the more of that stuff that you have. So it really creates an uphill battle. And I think if we were to think about things from a logical perspective, the human body is meant to store body fat, right? Like, it just totally 100% is. But how much body fat could you possibly accumulate if we lived 1 million years ago? Like, it would be very difficult to, go kill the bison over there and try to get fat off of that, or to see even several bushels of blueberries and get fat off of that.
I say it all the time, you can't make junk food out of animals. There's nothing that you could make out of an animal. You can take a whole animal, eat the whole thing. There's nothing that you can do that'll make you fat if you just stick to the animal world. So no matter what anybody says, a carnivore diet will keep you leaner than any other diet. I don't care what anybody says, because it's just, it's like, that's all you can do. You can't get fat if you're not eating all this other shit. Like, there's just no way. I've never seen it, and I don't think we will see it.
Our buddy Hadi is getting ready to do, is that how you say his name?
You say it Hadi, but I feel
Hadi.
weird saying Hadi because I feel like I'm trying to culturally appropriate or something.
And I feel like I'm calling him Hadi.
Yeah,
like Hadi.
Hey, you're
like this
Hadi.
dude is hot.
Can we call him H?
How about Hattie?
Hattie. Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, our friend who does some
Carnivore Chef
the
on
Carnivore
Instagram.
There you go. The Carnivore Chef. He does some powerlifting here, and I don't know, he weighs like 200 something pounds nowadays, but he used to be like 500 pounds.
400.
He used to be over 400 pounds. He's lost a ton of weight. Lost around 200 pounds. He's been kicking ass here in the gym, but when he was transitioning into losing all this weight and he was getting healthier and starting to feel better, he was lifting here in Super Training Gym. He was inspired by us, and he shared his story with us, which is amazing. You may have seen him on some of previous videos right here on this very YouTube channel. But what has been amazing, the coolest thing is, like, I didn't get to see that part of the transformation. I didn't
see it either. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, we didn't even know we were impacting this guy. That was another cool thing. He just showed up on our doorstep one day, which is fantastic. The doorstep of Super Training Gym.
Nervous and almost like in tears to tell me. And he's like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you. And I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? And he's like, well, I just want to tell you, like, I lost 191 pounds just following you and Mark. And it's like, as soon as the words came out of his mouth, I grabbed him and I said, come here, man. I gave him a big hug. I'm like, that's fucking awesome.
Gave him a big French kiss.
Yeah, I made out with him.
Dipped
we were
him
like,
down.
hey. Yeah, no, but really it was like one of those moments that don't normally happen. And I brought him right inside, like right away, and I brought him right to meet you. I'm like, you got to meet this guy. And then you didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, wow, I was so excited.
And I was like, great, another fat powerlifter.
Yeah, another guy. And then as soon as you talked to him, you're like, holy shit. And then the reason I knew that his story was impactful is because I'd come back in and then I'd see you talking to him. And to me, the best thing is like when I bring somebody in here who has a really good story, Mark will secretly go up to these people. Like, he inspires the hell out of them. They don't even they don't even expect Mark to come talk to them. Like, oh, he's too busy, he's this, he's that. But actually, those are the people I think he talks to the most. Like Russell. Like when Russell told, it was like heartwarming to me. You don't even know this probably, but like when Russell told me, oh yeah, Mark texts me or Mark hits me up on Instagram, I'm like, what? I'm like, he didn't even text me. But seriously, I think that's really cool.
I know you're doing okay.
No, but I think that's really cool that you take your time, as busy as you are and as much as you're doing and cranking out, you actually take the time to hit up the people that matter to us. And that matter to me. You know, and it makes a big deal on me, because when I see you supporting my peeps, I'm like, hey, that's awesome.
Well, I'd like to see people get healthy, and again, we're not making this stuff up. There's a lot of great resources out there with people that you can look into. Just on that topic for a second, just to plug a few people. Mark Sisson has outstanding information. Like we like the carnivore diet, but we will probably be meat-based the rest of our lives. I don't know if I'm going to try to spend. I'm not going to try to spend the rest of my. I'll just say it this way: I'm not going to try to spend the rest of my life eating meat to try to prove a point to anybody.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it either.
I love eating meat.
It'll happen or it won't.
But I also love having like a keto brick here and there, or a perfect keto bar.
By the way, Keto Brick 2.0.
Cinnamon Crunch.
It's fucking awesome.
I know, I had one.
Had it yesterday? Did it come in the mail?
It came in the mail. It's amazing.
Robert Sykes, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of great resources. There's a lot of great people that are producing a lot of great products. You got Ron Penna with Legendary Foods making Pop-Tarts and all these things that aren't going to have the same negative impact as if we ate like a regular Pop-Tart. I realize it's still calories and there's weird shit in there. It's kind of like an Impossible Burger, right?
I would just say still consider that stuff all junk food and all a treat, but now you've substituted all your shitty treats for like treats that aren't going to insult your body that bad. So like still consider it like, yeah, that's a cheat, but like I know I'll have that Pop-Tart on the weekend when I have my cheat day. And I don't know if you heard Rogan the other day, but Rogan said, I think I got it. Now, he'll probably change his mind on this once he actually puts it into practice, but he said, I think I got it. 6 days on, 1 day off. 6 days of carnivore, 1 day eat whatever you want. And he's like, I feel like that will work for me and my family, and I can still do things and be normal. And I'll say he'll probably end up going to like one meal a week or something like that, because like you end up going like, man, eating shitty all day affects you for 3-4 days afterwards.
Just going back to our friend Hadi, losing all this weight. I didn't see him lose the weight. He didn't see him lose the weight. We just see pictures, right? But the transformation that he's made while he's been here at Super Training has been absolutely amazing. It's been ridiculous. When you're a huge person like that, I think people call you a big guy and they think you're super strong and stuff, but it's actually really hard to move your body around because you had so much pain. Well, Hadi has lost all this weight. He's gotten himself in shape, and he's about to do a powerlifting meet. I think that is, out of seeing Stan Efferding break all-time world records, seeing Eric Spoto break all-time world records, to see our hero, our childhood hero, come into my gym and to teach us how to squat, bench, and deadlift, Ed Cohn. All these amazing, cool things that have happened inside the walls of Super Training Gym, celebrating birthdays, celebrating people breaking all-time world records, and just all the different things, the seminars, all the stuff that ever has happened inside the walls of Super Training Gym. I think that this is the most special story that I've ever seen. It really is unbelievable, because this is a guy, he was going to die. He was down and out. You could just count him out. You could be like, yep, he's going to be another person that dies from a heart attack. Not only did he come back from that, but now he's going to do a powerlifting meet. It's like,
and also,
that doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot else that
it's through his food.
There's a lot more that goes into this story. Right when we met him, his father passed away, and his father was like his hero. Like his father brought all of them over from not Lithuania. Where is he from? Lebanese.
I think that's
something
right.
like that. So his father brought them all over here. And then his father died basically penniless, and it broke his heart, and it was killing him.
He wouldn't have been able to survive that if he was still heavy when
exactly.
his dad died.
He kept going through the steps. I called him the day that his dad passed away, and I said, listen, man, I just want to let you know I love you. And he said, well, getting a phone call from you was like, that was the most important thing. And I was like, no, the most important thing is that you did this diet.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing.
Most important thing's your next meal, right?
And I think that he's just served as such an inspiration. Like even my friend Brian, who is Be More Fit 2020 on Instagram, and he trains here too. Brian and I both say like we're inspired by Hadi so much because he doesn't ever cheat. He doesn't ever go off of anything, and you can't shake him. You'd be like, hey, hey, you want to, this or that, and hey, you can have this if you want. He'll say, no, I don't want that. And it sort of like makes us go like, well, screw you, Hadi. Like he's like unshakable as far as this diet goes. And I think it just, I don't know, it's just so inspirational and so cool to have that.
I just asked him, I said, hey, listen, do you think this is okay for someone to do? Someone who weighs like 500 pounds, and they drop 20, they've been working hard on the diet, is it okay for them to go like off plan, and then get back to it and so on? And so we talked about it, and he said, man, I don't know. That just didn't work for him. He had to go 100%. He had to go all in. He had to focus, because anytime he went off track, he just couldn't get back on track.
You know what Hadi did for me? He got me off of cheese. Remember I told you yesterday, I'm like, I'm not eating cheese. And it's only been like 2 days, so it's not like it's been anything. But honestly, I'm just, every time I think of cheese, I'm going to think of him.
Right.
I'm going to be like, no, fuck cheese. I can't have it because he wouldn't have it.
Right.
Or maybe I'll call him every time I'm going to have it.
And, to clear things up
off.
as well, there's nothing really wrong with cheese. But sometimes you want to cut things out for certain reasons just to test.
I've been trying to cut it out, though, for a really specific reason. There is nothing wrong with cheese. You're right. People that eat dairy usually live longer.
People that are healthy. And
they're usually stronger, right? My problem with dairy is I'm trying to get rid of all this pain and see if I can actually get rid of it.
What if it's the cheese?
Yeah.
What if all you need to do is cut the cheese?
Hey, we've done it before. Pull my finger.
So when it comes to some of these, stories and some of these things that we've heard, it's been absolutely amazing. Just to kind of go back again, I know we're going back and forth on stuff, but another great person when you're listening to this, it'd be great if you had a notepad or something with you. And I know a lot of you guys just listen to YouTube and don't even always watch it all the time. And if you're like me, you have not RedTube, but YouTube Red, and you're able to listen and watch it as you have other apps open, which is a really amazing thing. If you don't have that, you should just buy it, because it's like $9 a month or something like that.
It's totally worth it.
It's 100% worth it.
I basically have so this is another thing I tell everybody. I always have a YouTube video or a podcast going all the time, always learning.
You could be working on something else, as you're doing that. You could be writing, you could just be walking and just listening to some of the stuff. Anyway, Rob Wolf is another great resource. He started everything for me.
Yeah.
From back, when I was 330 pounds, that was the first steps that I took. Was, I went paleo, then I went keto, and then now kind of here we are.
First time I ever heard anything was Kelly Starrett told me, you got to read Rob Wolf's book, and I'm like, why? And he's like, because you have pain. You need to stop eating grain.
He was talking about inflammation.
Remember,
he
said you got to stop eating grain like it's your job.
Right.
And I was like, what? Like I'd never heard of that. And that was like when I was making prescription thugs. That's how long ago.
Why would bread hurt my knees?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me back then.
It is weird, right? But now we do know that it does have some truth to it, and who knows how much. It's hard to say. Like, we're not people that really give two shits about studies. But what we do care about is when people try stuff. Those people say plant lectins are really, awful for us. But I don't know, how awful are they, and who are we testing that on? Are we testing it on Americans? Because Americans are more tainted than anything you can possibly imagine. We just have eaten too many shitty foods. So I don't even know, if we have the stats that say that over 90% of America doesn't have full metabolic health, then we can't test any of those people with plant lectins, because they don't have full access to what their metabolism is supposed to do and how a healthy body is supposed to function. So that's why I don't put a lot of stock into that stuff. But there is a lot of information, and it's starting to become overwhelming. And there's a lot of autoimmune disorders I think just would not exist at all if people just simply did not eat carbohydrates. I can't say that as an actual 100% fact, because I don't know if you were to eat a lot of weird keto stuff, if you would still have a problem. But I do know that if you were to just eat meat, that you wouldn't have any of those problems. A lot of those problems would be resolved, or they would just be maybe not all resolved. Maybe they wouldn't go away for everybody. They would just have less of a negative impact.
Another great resource I would like to bring up, just so you guys know about it, is if you guys want personal coaching, right? And you DM me and Mark, and we don't get back to you because we get 1 million of them a day. Just go to meatrx.com, and they actually have coaching from people that Dr. Baker approves. They send in...
That's Shawn Baker's website.
Yeah, so they send in stuff to Shawn Baker and his partners, and they review it. They put people through a little training course. There's not a whole lot to it, but these are people that have been doing the diet. You have to be doing it at least 6 months to be a coach. So it's actually people with experience, and it's actually very affordable. Very cheap, and it's just going to get you going. And some of you guys out there, I would really push you to become a coach, because I found yesterday this guy that I know just works down the street from where I live. And I just was talking to him, and he said, hey man, I want to learn more about the carnivore diet. I said, let's meet tomorrow for coffee. He's in the gym right now lifting. And it's just great to be able to just keep pulling people towards health, keep finding people wherever they are. And so, what I notice is coaching my friend Robin, when I'm coaching him, it's real easy to kind of just like go over and remind yourself of all the good habits that you've formed, all the good things that you've just changed about yourself. And you say, well, I used to do this and now I do this, and I used to do this and now I do this. And that guy can kind of relate to you because he's a big guy. He's been there. When it's midnight and you want a pizza, he's been there. And just kind of going through that stuff and teaching him how to combat that.
What I'd love for everybody to do is just try to embrace this. Like, if you're trying a carnivore challenge, that's kind of a different thing, right? Because you're just going to try to just eat meat to 100% see what that does for you, what that does to you, how it all works, and how it all feels, right? But when you guys ask us, and you're relatively, this is, with thinking that you're a relatively healthy person. You may be heavy, but you're relatively healthy. You don't have a lot of weird ailments, and you don't have some crazy disease or something like that. When you ask us and you say, can I have cottage cheese? When you ask us and say, can I have sour cream? When you ask us and say, can I have ranch dressing? Can I have Crystal Light? Can I have stevia? Can I have Coke Zero? The answer for me, and I think he would share the same thing, is just go for it. Like, let's just not, like, that's not where the battle is. That's not where the main fight is. Now, if over a period of time you think that may be problematic, then start to have that exit out of your diet.
People ask me all the time, simple things like, does, a Monster energy drink that has no carbs in it, is that going to affect the carnivore diet? And you're like, no, like not. I mean, like in all reality, everybody on carnivore, most of the people on carnivore will say, yes, you can't have that because everybody's into all natural and this and that.
We're just trying to be meat based. We're trying to get most of our stuff from meat.
Also, like, let's just figure out, like, okay, that might not be the healthiest thing, but it's going to help somebody continue this carnivore diet.
If you can stay on the diet.
So it's like you gotta
How much
balance.
restriction do you want?
Yeah, you gotta like balance, right? And you gotta go, okay. And then like maybe you could find an energy drink that's sweetened with stevia or something else, right? Like I think that's the next step. And by the way, maybe we should invent one because nobody has one that's good.
That's true. Yeah, there's not a lot. There's some good choices out there. I mean, there's starting to be better and better choices all the time.
Just so people know and are fully aware, and I'm just going to admit this, I basically drank a 6-pack of Zevia, which is a stevia-based soda, pretty much every single day. Well, at least for this year, I've pretty much drank a 6-pack of it, and probably half of last year too. And it's done nothing to affect like my body fat, my body weight that I know of, or I don't feel it. At least I haven't felt any detrimental effects, and there's times when I haven't had it for a week and I don't feel any different. So I think things like that are a matter of like, it's going to be up to you. Do you want it? If you want it that bad, have it. But like, what do you want more? Do you want perfect health more, or do you want that soda right now? And that's a decision you just have to make when you come to them.
Shifting gears for a little bit here. Something I wanted to get into is that, my brother and I, we're going to continue to investigate. We're going to continue to try to find answers, through the different people I bring here into Slingshot World Headquarters and interview for the Power Project, and also through a movie that he's been working really hard on for a long time. Like, we're not going to stop. We're just going to keep trying to investigate and find out more information. But a lot of times we'll post stuff about fast food, and I think there's a huge misconception about fast food, and I will just put my hand up and admit, and I'm not sure where he stands on this, I don't know all the fast food practices, and I don't pretend to. But I'm going to start to dive into it. I'm going to start making some phone calls, and I'm going to start communicating with people that work for McDonald's, work for In-N-Out. I'm going to start to find out, and I'm going to also find out people that don't work for them, that investigate and that look at their food and look at their food practices, and I'm going to start to dive into that because I think there's too many misconceptions out there. Now, I can't speak for every food company, but in conversation with a friend of mine who has been studying, environmental conservation. He's been studying like farming. He's been studying. This guy knows, animals kind of inside and out, every which way you can think of. And because he knows about the soil and he knows about the plants and he knows about what the animals eat and how they're processed and all this stuff, he knows a ton about food in general. And when I asked him about In-N-Out specifically, he said, "Look, man, the burgers are never frozen, okay? And he's like, the only thing they might do is they might throw some sodium in there. And he's like, so then he gets back to me like a few hours later. He's like, I just looked into it. He said, it said don't even put salt in there. The burgers are never frozen. So I don't know how they figured that out, but they're never frozen. And think about this for a second. So before you go and make comments, before you go and make uneducated guesses towards what you think is bad for us, think about this. Who moves more meat in a day? In-N-Out Burger or your local grocery store?
Yeah,
your
or a local grass-fed farmer. They're going to move way less meat.
You're right. And your local grocery store, it's possible that the local grocery store's food quality is lower and or freshness is lower than In-N-Out because they're firing out so much stuff every single day. And a lot of the traditional markets that you're going to go into, you see more
There's
local
a lot of
stuff
money
now.
on quality control too, because they don't want people getting sick and stuff.
But they're buying food from kind of these huge ranchers, and they're getting foods the same in a very similar fashion to the way that your food at your local grocery store may not be and could oftentimes be lower quality than what you might get at something like In-N-Out Burger.
I ate a lot of rotten beef. No, I'm just kidding.
Rottenmeat.com.
I think
don't go there.
In-N-Out, they get most of their meat from Harris Ranch, and Harris Ranch is the place that they call Cowschwitz. So this was like Auschwitz for cows.
There's like a million
right?
cattle there.
Which I think is, first of all, a terrible name to compare. Like that butcher told us, it's terrible to compare a tragedy of humans to, a farm. But that it is what it is. That's people called it that, not me. But I think that when you look into things like that, we definitely have to take a look into Harris Ranch. Like we have to look into like what is the effect on the environment? What is the effect? Because when you do go by there, it is pretty disgusting. It does smell pretty bad. You can't leave your windows down in your car when you drive by there, and like that doesn't make me happy. Like as a carnivore, I want to see animals be treated the best way possible. I just pitched a movie to Netflix, and when I went in there and talked to them, one of my main concerns was like, well, as a carnivore, I just want to make things better for everybody. How do we make things better for everybody? And they really like that message because they're like, well, they thought they were going to get the message of like, don't worry about it. It's just a cow. Who cares? Like, and I don't have that feeling. I want to make it the best possible way that we can make it. And I think if we invest our time, energy, and money into like what you and I are doing, I think we'll get there. We'll make people healthy. We'll make people happier because we're treating animals better. And we will also create a better environment for everybody else that's coming up, like your kids.
Right, and there's really not any. The environmental equation is a very tough thing to even figure out. And the truth from where I sit is I don't think anybody truly knows. Wiping out all the cattle and having people all go, out of nowhere, having, waving a wand and having everybody go vegan, I don't think that solves anything.
It drives me crazy because I think it's just a distraction. I think this cattle thing is a distraction because if the people that are really going after climate change were going after the right things, they'd actually make something happen, But they're all over the place. Everything's bad for the environment.
Also, too, we can at least look at, and everyone's going to have a different perspective, but you can at least look at, let's just say cows, right? Cows are very useful. We get milk, we get butter, we get all these dairy products from them, and we also eat them. But what is the use of like constantly breeding horses? Like we don't really need. I know that people love horses, or even your own pet.
What about cats and dogs?
I have a dog, and I love my dog. My dog is like our little new family member, But is that something that we really truly need? Maybe somebody can make some arguments that we do.
Cats
need
and
some
dogs
things,
eat enough food for 70 million people.
What I'm saying, right? Yeah,
that's crazy.
70 million people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we're not saying to remove any of the stuff, But I'm just saying as an example, like. All animals, all human beings, all beings of the earth cause problems for the land that we're on.
Something as simple as, so they said if you go vegan, right, for a full year, that it's more effective to not take the international flight that you were going to take than to go go vegan for a whole year. Like it's that much of a disparity, like where it's not going to help the planet that much to not eat meat.
Just swim across the ocean, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not going to hurt the planet that much to stop eating meat, but it will help the planet a lot to stop driving so much, to stop, stop flying, all over the place when we don't necessarily need to. Yeah. Sometimes we need to go places, everybody wants to go on vacation.
Please check out, if you really do care about the environment, you want to be more informed, you want to learn more stuff, check out the podcast I did with Paul Saladino and Shawn Baker. We went over it a ton. That doesn't mean we solved anything. That doesn't mean that the topic is over with, but there's a lot of information in there. You need to check it out because you need to be more well informed. And I was at Phil's this morning, and one of our friends there, we're actually friends with vegans on occasion. Even the guy behind the camera eats some vegetables here and there, which we don't really like at all, but we deal with them when we can.
We might be able to get him up over 110 pounds.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, she was just kind of, we talked for just 2 minutes, so we didn't have time to have like a full-on conversation, but she said something to the effect of like, for every 50 pounds of meat that's bought, there's like 50 pounds of waste. And I don't know exactly what she meant, but I do know that we do waste a lot of food in this country, but meanwhile, she's like heating up a bagel for a customer, and I said, those things get thrown in the garbage too, So the wheat and all the different things that go into that bagel, like, is that not a cost? Is that not leaving behind a footprint on the planet?
Also, think about what the bagel's costing. Right. If you look at Weight Watchers, a bagel is 11 points and a donut is only 6. That's how bad a bagel is for you, right? So you have people that are eating this. And
I want to score that many points.
But then where does it go? Where does it go after that? So then now this person is 60 and they got diabetes and they're in the hospital.
They're making you sick.
And they're contributing to our greenhouse gases because our medical system, our healthcare system, is 10% of it. So would you rather contribute to the 2%, with the cows, or would you rather, participate in the bigger 10%, which means you're sick? There's nothing worse for the planet than a person that's sick. It's the worst thing that can possibly happen.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you've said it. I've heard Shawn Baker say it. I've heard Dr. Saladino say it. Yeah, sick people make a sick planet.
Yeah, people being just like useless. Like when you're sick, you're not going to feel like moving around a lot. You're not going to be motivated to do anything. And
somebody's got to take care of you.
Participating in the day-to-day stuff. Again, shifting gears a little bit into, talking about kind of like just some pop culture stuff. Watching the Academy Awards and listening to Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I posted about that.
Yeah, I saw that you posted about it, and I understand, using that platform for political views and things like that, but what I really hated about his speech, I didn't hate his speech, but there was a part about it that I hated, and I hated this. I hated that he didn't take a strong stance. He didn't tell you what to do or what he wants you to see done, what he would like to see done. He didn't really have a strong stance in what he was saying, but he kind of threw some stuff out there about how destructive we are, but he didn't really give any examples towards how destructive we are. And he just kind of led us down this road of is that guy vegan, or what's the deal? He should have said, listen, I'm a vegan. I changed my life years ago because I realized how destructive we are, and I would like to do something about it. And here's some things that I think would help. That would have been awesome, because then we could say, okay, well, I agree, and I'm going to do the same, or I disagree, and I'm going to research it and look into it further. But his speech was kind of, it's probably high as fuck, but his speech was just all over the place.
Yeah, and I thought, I think too, if you have a platform, there is a reason to use it. There are good things that you can do, but you're exactly right. What is the plan? What are we going to do? And then it's it was just weird. It was kind of sandwiched in there with a bunch of, I just don't think you can compare what's being done in farming, because farming isn't done out of hostility or hatred. Farming is done out of providing people food. And so to compare farmers to people that are oppressing people and racists and things like that, I just don't think you can do that. I think that you're basically telling 97% of the world that eats meat, hey, you guys are all assholes. And that's what you're saying. And you're never gonna get anywhere to help people by saying that. So maybe a message that is a little bit more optimistic, or a little bit more hey, I know, 97% of you eat meat, but here's why I think that, we could fix that or whatever. But you don't have a lot of time in 45 seconds in his defense.
Right.
But he did say something at the Golden Globes as well. And the other thing is, look what he looked like in the Joker.
Right.
I mean, he did lose a lot of weight for that. So people are
right.
hey, this is misleading. He lost a lot of weight for that. But it's he just looked terrible. So.
Yeah, I just, I don't know if it's an appropriate, place to even do that. You won an award for acting, but I do understand why, the kind of Kaepernick effect, right? people are like, well, Colin Kaepernick, he should have went about it different. It's like, I don't know what other choice he has to voice his opinion. And I kind of think, but I think that like that's what people do. And my wife and I were talking about it. She can't have a conversation without getting too mad. So she started getting really mad at me. But my point was, I said, I've seen everybody do that at every Academy Award that we've ever watched. And any show that we ever watched, I see people do that every year. And she's like, no, it's not appropriate to do it there. And I was like, well, it's done all the time. She's like, people wouldn't watch it if they kept doing it. I'm like, they do it all the time.
There's always people
every
making
year
political,
they do it.
yeah,
Everyone's got some sort of agenda.
Making
right?
that statement, yeah. That definitely happens all the time. I wouldn't fight with Andy, though. She'll probably kill you.
She, sometimes she does want to kill me. So what has happened on your social media, like in the last few days? Has there been anything inflammatory that's kind of bugged you where you're like, man, that was kind of dumb?
Yeah, the one thing that really, really bothered me is I posted about you and your YouTube channel, and a guy wrote, it got like 49 comments back against the guy, but basically a guy said, don't listen.
Order 66.
Yeah, don't listen to YouTube or Instagram influencers. They are a joke. And then I just wrote back, you're a huge moron because, doctors receive very little nutritional training in school. Oh. So I think that it's like nobody.
Oh, that
else,
guy was saying listen to a doctor instead.
Yeah, listen to a doctor. Nobody's going to help you, right? He said, don't listen to anybody that didn't go to medical school.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that we know that have been to medical school that are great, and there's a lot of people we know that are idiots.
What did we learn from Fantastic Fungi, that movie?
What did we learn?
What did we learn? What were see if you can remember? Do you remember the leading researchers in this mushroom world? Who were they? They were all amateurs, and then they referenced.
Well, they say that, yeah.
They referenced Charles Darwin as an amateur. So he's not a doctor, right? So there's a lot. I mean, we just don't even need to explain that to you guys. There's so many people that with tons of credibility that didn't go to some sort of school to be a doctor.
Yeah, that Fantastic Fungi movie was amazing. I remember
that was cool.
Like
you got to see it, Carlos.
The other thing, was like Michael Pollan said. This is why doctors and the medical field and medical industry sucks. There are things out there that can cure people in 1 or 2 doses, but we just go the other way. We're like, oh, we go to, so. I think a lot of people, rather than going to medical school, hopefully in the future will start training with things like psychedelics and mushrooms and these other things, because it's like nobody really knows about that, and that's where the healing is happening. So I was just talking to a guy in our gym that has mental health issues, and he's on antidepressants. He feels like shit, and he comes and talks to me and he says, I'm feeling like shit today, and blah blah blah, and like. I'm like,
they can make you feel really sick.
I just said, you ever look into mushrooms? And he's like, no, but I need to. And I was like, hell yeah, you do. I think all these drugs are like, I would never tell anybody to go off psych meds because we know that can be really harmful to just go on and off these drugs. So I just said, just listen to your doctor, but like, let's start talking about it. Let's start finding people that really know about this that might be able to help you a little bit more. Because I would just hate to see somebody go, we dealt with it with Mad Dog. He was so up and down, right? And he would smoke pot and he would take mushrooms and he would do this, but we didn't know that they were therapeutic. We didn't know it could be therapeutic. Right. Instead, people wanted to take that stuff away from him. Like, I remember when he would have like weed, everybody always was like, come on, don't smoke that and blah, blah. But like, maybe that's what was actually keeping him in balance, right? Like,
yeah, maybe it helped.
And so it's really hard with some of these things to just like throw all drugs in a category like drugs are bad,
right?
When a lot of these things are really helping a lot of people.
Yeah, on my Instagram, I get inflammatory stuff all the time. On this YouTube channel, this has been awesome because it's been pretty positive. But man, I get a lot of negative stuff coming from my Instagram, and like I posted something yesterday which was kind of supposed to be more fun and funny, where I talked about gaining 20 pounds, and I talked about how there's 2 cameras on me. And I'm like, well, each camera adds 10 pounds, so I gained 20 pounds on the Carnivore Diet. I did something that people didn't think was possible. And then there was just so much just people being mad about steroids and all kinds of just different stuff. And so what I'd like to kind of clear up for people is, first of all, a steroid card that you play, you get to play it one time, and it gives you a nice little bump. You go, boom. And you get to like whatever weight or whatever size or whatever strength that you get to.
You don't get a medal for being natty at the end of your life.
Yeah, that's true too. But you don't like, it doesn't like roll upon itself, and you don't just continue to get bigger forever. Just as you have natural abilities and natural limits you have limits with drugs as well. Now you can play the steroid card, and then you can do SARMs, and then you can do, right? And you can start to take more and more and more. But what I was trying to share with people is that I'm doing the carnivore diet, and I gained 20 pounds. And people immediately think of steroids. Well, I've told you I've been on steroids since I was 25. In the film, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I share with everybody, I say, I'll probably be on and off them for the rest of my life. I love them. But it's not like I went off of them and then came back on them or anything like that. I didn't add anything in. It's been the same all the way through. That's been steady. The only thing I did is I went from utilizing a lot of fasting to getting rid of fasting and to trying to intentionally gain weight, which I've never tried before. And if you think that I have some weird genetics or you think that steroids are altering that, that's fine. But I did gain 20 pounds. It's a depleted, I was depleted when I weighed 225 versus when I weighed 245. So, there's a little bit of deception in there, but I even wrote that in the caption because I'm never trying to deceive anyone. I'm trying to give you guys information that then you can take for yourselves and you can utilize it and you can have better education towards other things.
Like for you and I know our weight can fluctuate 20 to 30 pounds. Like I could
gain 50 pounds.
I was 210
in a month if I wanted to.
You'll kind of be surprised by this. I was 210 at the beginning of World Carnivore Month. I was putting on a little fat, and then in January 1st, I basically stopped taking testosterone. I want to see what? Well, I
kind of brother.
If I'm
going
to do a film and I'm going to go out to the world and show people what I'm doing, I actually don't like when people are like, "Oh, well, you're on testosterone." Right. It's like, well, fuck you. I have like so many problems, so many health issues. I should be on it. It's healthier, but I get what you're saying. It skews the process.
Right.
So I was 210, and because I was eating a lot, I was trying to go full carnivore. I wasn't full carnivore the year before. I was like 90%.
Right.
So I wanted to go full carnivore. I got up to like 210, and then today I weighed 182.
Damn.
That's the lowest I've weighed since like high school. I think, the lowest I've ever gotten was in 2000. I weighed, for a brief moment, I weighed like 175. And I was like really ripped for like a little couple seconds, and then I got fat again,
Ripped for a few seconds.
You know why though? And this is what I've realized, and I fully understand and grasp what happened. What happened was I felt great then. I wasn't in pain. I didn't have all the trauma in my hips and my back and everything. And then I started to get in pain, and then I stopped lifting. And so I want to tell everybody, like, never stop doing what you love.
Figure out a way to keep moving.
Yeah, figure out a way to keep moving, because when I stopped lifting, I was just dead in the water. Like everything really just got bound up and tightened up and, felt like shit.
Lastly, I want to end with something that we talked about kind of early on, was Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan mentioning, these cheats that he might have on a particular day. We have a kid that works here. He's probably 24, 25. We call him Settlegate. His name is Josh Settlage. And he shared something on Instagram the other day that I thought was just absolute magic. And I've already talked about it on this channel, but if that video didn't get released yet, you're hearing it here for the first time. But he said, rather than having like a cheat, cheat like means something bad, right? You agreed to this one thing, and then now you're doing something else, right? You agreed that you're going to play professional football, and the professional football contract says you're not allowed to use performance-enhancing drugs. Same with the UFC, or you signed on the dotted line to be married to someone specifically, and then you did something different, right? And you cheated, right? And so rather than thinking of a cheat meal, he calls it a treat meal, which is really just a slightly different mindset. But I think it's not, there's nothing negative about a treat. A treat actually kind of gets you happy. You're thinking, like, if you were to say, to give a kid a treat, like, what's the negative, right? You're going to think, okay, well, if we give them too many treats, like, that could be problematic. But for the most part, a treat is going to be something that gets you fired up. You hear the ice cream truck when you're a little kid, and you get a treat, and you're pumped. You give your dog a treat, and your dog is pumped, right? And so Josh was just saying, like, it's a treat, and it's something that's accounted for. And so therefore, it's kind of part of the plan. And so that way, you don't ever have to think about being on or off the plan. Being like, when you say that you're off the plan, you're already screwed up. Like, you screwed up like times 2, because from a physical standpoint, you cheated on your diet. From a mental standpoint, you cheated on yourself. And you're already screwed, because from your mindset perspective, you already set yourself back a couple of steps by simply just saying that you You know, this by simply just saying that you are off your diet, but you're not off your diet if it's part of your plan. And that's what I thought was so brilliant. He has it accounted for. This is going to be a treat. This is when I'm doing it.
You also know that like a steak, if you're gonna have like a ribeye and you're on a carnivore diet, say, and you have 3 steaks a day or 2 steaks, whatever. If you skip one of those steaks, you can substitute that for 1,000 calories or something else, maybe once a week, and get away with that. But like, just keep your calories in check. And like that's how I've kind of snuck through the whole way. Was I would never count calories, but I can count in my head. And
Or you can
say,
look at
well,
a package.
I'm gonna eat like less meat today, and I'm gonna have some bullshit, you know.
Right.
And it's this bullshit is 800 calories. You know, it's like some ice cream or something. You know, and now there's even some pretty good keto ice creams and stuff like that, like enlightened keto.
And that's usually the way I choose to, like, if I'm going to do something a little different. I'd rather eat like a keto brick or something. My taste buds don't really care as much about like pizza and these kind of different things. But for me, you know, another thing that I like to do is I like to every once in a while just take a break. Just take a diet break. And I know that's very scary to people because now you're like out there in the world and you don't have a lot of rules. But actually, it's a great practice.
Well, you'd
to
find
be like,
that
you know
when you
what?
don't have any rules, you don't want.
Nah, you ain't gonna behave that.
You
bad.
don't want to go to like chicken and waffles or something. Like
No,
we're not programmed like that anymore.
No.
So you'll find that your cheats will be different.
It's like a kid that has been disciplined many times. You've been disciplined enough. You've been smacked in the face enough to know that this is not smart for you to eat.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna go get an ice cream sundae with 10 scoops. That would be crazy.
Maybe once. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this content. This is our beep 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 beep. This is our World Carnivore News Report, and we're gonna try to commit to this, doing it every single week. And this is where it starts. So like, it's pretty cool that you guys get to see it in this raw format like this.
It's gonna be cheap, but we'll make it awesome.
Yeah, and we're gonna like this one. We just kind of walked into it and just said, "Hey, let's just
We
sit
had
down."
no plan.
Yeah, and we had no plan. That's very typical of me. I don't ever have a plan. I just go, aim and shoot at the same time.
It's hard when you're trying to make movies and people are like, "What do you want to do?" And you're like, "Just get a camera. Let's just go." And nobody else likes to do things that way. So, but I like you doing it that way.
This is hard. Oh.
Leave us some comments.
Yeah, why don't you comment? Tell him that he looks like shit. Tell me that I look old. Somebody commented about how old I looked on something, and I wrote
Hey man,
back.
you look great.
I know. You know what? I that really hurt my feelings though. I wrote back and I said, you know what? I'm halfway through my life. You know, at least. You know, well, how old am I going to live to? Like 90? I don't know. So it's like I think I shouldn't really look that young.
No. Well,
Right?
the beard makes you look older. But I think like the beard and that, you got to grow your hair in a little bit too. Like grow it all out. Go nuts.
Just let it go all caveman. Be
Just
like Captain Caveman.
Yeah, be like Steven Spielberg.
Leave some comments. Let us know, how this was helpful or what you would like for us to report on. But we're going to get into, talking about, what some of the people in the carnivore space are talking about. We'll talk about something new that we found out. We'll talk about something that we think is a point of interest to you guys. If we hear something new about fasting or hear something new
And
about...
guys, please, a lot of you guys will send me stuff on my DMs that's like pictures of like before and afters, or hey, I saw this on somebody's post and it was great, or this really helped me. All that stuff is useful, and if we use it, if we get it from you guys, we'll definitely use it as we can. So
drop
keep
them in
sending all
here.
that stuff. Yeah, drop them in here, whatever.
Man, why not?
Drop them wherever.
I think that's it. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.